Luis Castillo was great, but the Mariners wasted his start with another disappointing effort at the plate. Let's talk about it here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, June 2nd, 2023. This is Marco Gonzales and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners postgame show, brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making us your first listen after the game. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. If you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. 2-0 the final from Arlington. Mariners lose their series opener with the Rangers, just 3 hits against Jon Gray and the Rangers pitching staff. Colby, let's just address the offense now and be done with it. 3 hits, like I said, on the night. One of them, Teoscar Hernandez, wasted by trying to run to second on Adolis Garcia, who has arguably the best arm of any outfielder in all of professional baseball. The other was a soft hit ball. They only had 3 hard hit balls in total on the night. Just terrible stuff. I mean, Jon Gray's been awesome. He's been on an absolute tear the last few starts, as they noted a couple times on the broadcast, but still the offense has to be better than this.
Well, first of all, Ty, I would like to tell you that every little thing's going to be all right. So buck up,
Okay.
Buttercup. Grow up. It's one baseball game. Be a goldfish, all that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, the offense tonight was terrible. I mean, if you're looking for any positive whatsoever, they didn't really strike out. So that's something. They didn't walk either or hit anything hard. So
Nope.
yeah, it's almost like strikeouts. Yes, they're annoying, but they're, just because you cut down on strikeouts doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a better offense. But yeah, it was frustrating because it felt like I felt like I called like every single pitch that Gray was going to throw that entire game. Like, just got into a very obvious rhythm. You could tell when sliders were coming. You could tell when fastballs were coming. And the Mariners just had no answer for it. So, yeah, offense was terribly disappointing. Ty France continues to do this thing where he thinks he can drive a ball that's 6 inches outside and have success with that. And the fact that he's still hitting 2 is an utter embarrassment because he's been your worst hitter the last week or so. So that's bad. But hey, Mike Ford, base knack, Mike Ford. So that was good. It's already more than you've gotten from the DH spot in the last week or so. So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it was just an awful night. And when you're a team that's struggling offensively and you're also going up against a pitcher that's on an absolute heater, you can't make mistakes. You just can't do it. And we saw a mistake in the first at bat of the game. JP Crawford was up 3-1 and he swung at ball 4 on a pitch that was 4 or 5 inches outside. You can't do that. You're JP Crawford. Like your whole value is just walking and getting on base. The only pitches you're hitting hard are pitches that are on the plate. You can't chase. And it started that way. And of course, the big one, Teo, idiotic decision to try and stretch it. Teo, he's had a few of these just really dumb lapses where he gets himself into trouble. And then obviously Caballero gets, picked off after getting hit by a pitch. His dissension in terms of value continues really over the last week or so. He has not been very good either, which, surprise, I feel like somebody predicted that. But yeah, you're just not getting it from the bottom of the order. Today, you didn't get from the top of the order either. It's just a mess from top to bottom. There's really no way around it. And like you said, it's a bummer because you waste a really good pitching performance. And this game, it was right there to win. Gray was really good. Obviously, not going to take that away from him, but man, you talk about the 2 base running mistakes. You talk about terrible at bats after terrible at bats. How many soft pop flies did they hit in today's game? It was a ton. And then you not all of these came back to hurt the Mariners, but you had a couple pass balls. One of them proved to be pretty huge because it allowed Seager to score, or not Seager, Simeon in the ninth,
Simeon,
eighth, bottom of the eighth. Yeah.
Yeah.
It allowed him to score on a ball he otherwise wouldn't have. Cal had another pass ball that eliminated double play possibility. Jared Kelnick came up firing to home on a ball he had no chance to get Simeon on for the Rangers' first run, and that allowed whoever was on first to move up to second and eliminate that double play possibility. So yeah, it was just bad, sloppy baseball, and not something you want to see to open up a road trip, particularly coming off a day off. So just a bummer all the way around. But yeah, the offense, despite all those little tiny mistakes, you only gave up 2 runs, but you never even really mounted a serious threat the entire game. At no point did it feel like you were going to score a run.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. We've now gone 19 innings and we scored 1 run. And that was the run that was, off of the runner on first or the runner on second, automatic runner.
Yeah.
Not a great look for the Mariners offense recently. And it's too bad because, prior to the Yankees series, they were starting to swing the bat pretty well. But today, nothing even close. They didn't get robbed. They didn't get BABIP. They just sucked. Like at the end of the day, the offense was straight up terrible.
Yep. All right. That was more airtime than that offensive performance deserves. So we're going to move on. Talk about Luis Castillo, who was actually really good tonight. So at least one silver lining from this otherwise rough one for the Mariners. First, though, before we get into that, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So game 2 between the Mariners and the Rangers. And by the way, thank you so much for tuning in here to the Locked On Mariners post-game show and making us your first listen after the Mariners 2-0 loss to the Rangers. Bryan Woo is going to be starting tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit about that whole situation a little later on in this show. You can catch his major league debut on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app tomorrow night. But let's focus now on the guy who took the bump for the Mariners tonight. That's Luis Castillo, and he was excellent. 7 innings pitched, just 5 hits allowed, didn't give up a hit until the 5th inning. Just 1 earned run on a sac fly. The top of the order for the Rangers finally got to him. Simeon and Seager stringing together a couple of hits to mount their first run scoring inning of the night. 6 strikeouts, just 1 walk for Castillo, 6 rather hard hit balls. What did you see from Castillo tonight?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because I don't feel like he had great command of the strike zone tonight. He missed arm side and glove side pretty bad at times, but overall he threw 99 pitches and I think 62 of them were strikes. So that's a ratio that you'll certainly live with from Luis Castillo. The good news is that the velocity that we saw in his last outing, it was back yet again. Averaged 97 on the 4-seamer, topped out at 99. And it was a fastball slider night tonight. Didn't really throw the 2-seamer all that much. Interesting choice there. But the fastball was pretty effective. 10 whiffs on 22 swings on that pitch. And the changeup also pretty good. Swing and miss pitch. 3 whiffs on 9 swings. The called strike, he was able to get 3 more called strikes on that. So it's a pretty effective pitch when you have your fastball at the top of the zone, and Castillo did. It's just, it's got to be frustrating with Castillo when you pitch this well, and essentially the only shot you had to win this game was to be literally perfect. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's hard to stay in it at times like that. He had an opportunity to go even deeper into this game, but unfortunately the 6th inning there kind of got a 5th inning, 6th inning, either way. His last inning kind of got away from him. Pitch count got cranked up a ton. So he was not able to go 7. He certainly looked like he was on track to do that. But yeah, overall, good night from Castillo.
He did go 7. Did you mean 8?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, nights like this against, the best offense in baseball, or at least the one that has been for the first 60 some or 50 some odd games this year. This is the kind of performance that shows that Luis Castillo is and probably should be an all-star this year, because this is a Texas lineup that has just roasted everybody. And the Mariners, to their credit, their pitching has handled it pretty fine in the first 4 games of their
They've
season
only given
matchups
up
here.
8 runs.
Yeah, so it's just a bummer that the offense can't carry the load, and the Mariners pitching isn't even asking the offense to be good. They're asking them to be mediocre.
Yeah.
And so far they haven't been able to do that against Texas, and that's a frustrating thing, and that includes tonight. So overall Castillo, I thought was I thought the stuff was pretty darn good. I thought the command was it was okay. But the ability to throw strikes certainly was there tonight, and it was a little bit short of effectively wild, if that makes sense. Didn't run a ton of deep counts, but man, when he missed by a lot. And when he didn't miss, it was like right on the corner. So it's kind of a weird night for him command wise, but yeah, you'll take that every time out from Luis. He's back. There were a lot of people who were panicking about the bad 4-game stretch that kind of culminated in the horrible outing in Boston. It's 3 times in a row now he's been really good. So I think it's safe to say Luis Castillo's back, and that's good, because you're going to need him certainly, because you just lost one of your innings eaters in the back end, and that's somebody's got to pick up the slack, and thankfully tonight Castillo was able to pick up the slack and not only keep the Mariners in this game, but also kind of preserve the bullpen a little bit. So overall a pretty darn good night for Luis Castillo.
Yeah, Castillo 1.1 miles per hour up on his season average on his 4-seamer tonight, and 1.7 miles per hour up on his season average velocity on his sinker as well. 37% called strike plus whiff rate on the 4-seamer tonight. Pretty good stuff. 35% on the changeup as well. So, all right. So yeah, you mentioned it. Marco Gonzales stayed in Seattle. He did not make the trip with the Mariners down to Arlington. He's getting his left forearm checked out. And that has now opened the door for Bryan Woo to make his major league debut tomorrow night, which again, you can catch on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. So that part of this news dump is exciting, but for Marco, this is a huge bummer. Obviously don't want to jump to any conclusions here, but when you hear left forearm, that makes you pause a little bit, especially for someone that has had Tommy John surgery a few years ago. So what's your reaction to just all of this, really, to the news about Marco, to the decision to go with Bryan Woo here instead of, Tommy Malone or someone like that? What do you think?
Yeah, so obviously, first things first, you hope Marco is okay. He's doing okay.
Absolutely.
Left forearm tightness or fatigue or sore, whatever adjective they decide to use is not good. It's the same thing they initially diagnosed Robbie Ray with, and we hear it all the time. Left forearm tightness or right forearm tightness, whatever, usually means that you're missing at least a month, probably multiple months, and there's a fairly high possibility that you're going to undergo some serious surgery. So hopefully it's nothing too serious for Marco's sake and for the sake of the Mariners, because Bryan Woo can't cover all these innings for the rest of the year. He's just not prepared to do that physically because of his own injury history. So, obviously, again, really hope Marco's okay. If it only needs a month, that's fantastic. But situations like these, you're usually looking at multiple months, and it's not uncommon at all for this to lead to major surgery, in particular Tommy John. So keep an eye out for that. That's a bummer for Marco. I believe that would be his second Tommy John surgery, which is problematic. So hopefully Marco is okay, first and foremost. The decision to go with Woo, to me, tells me that the Mariners do think this is a long-term issue with Marco. They don't think that Marco's going to be back in the rotation in a week or two, and they only need Woo to make a couple starts, because If it did, then I think you would just go with Malone and say, we'll see what Marco does next time. But Woo is the higher upside play here. He is, probably the best pitcher in the minor leagues right now that you have, since you've called up Bryce Miller, and he's having a really nice season. Also, kind of a bonus. He's in Arkansas. You're playing in Texas. It's right there, so it's a pretty easy call up to make. So yeah, obviously, it's a bummer that Woo makes his debut because somebody gets hurt, especially somebody who's as important to the Mariners, as Marco Gonzales. So that's always a bummer, but I'm excited to see Bryan Woo pitch. It's really fun stuff. And there's a lot of upside here. The only unfortunate thing is that Bryan Woo again cannot cover the rest of this season. He's going to run out of bullets. I think he only threw like 50 innings last year, somewhere in that range. They're not going to ask him to go 120. They're probably going to tap him out at 90, I would guess, around that range. And he's already at 30. So you can do the math. Not a lot of starts here, but it could be enough to get you to the point where you can go trade for another number 5, and then either move Woo back to Arkansas, where you can spread out his starts a little bit easier, manage his innings a lot more, or slide him into the bullpen where the stuff will play up. So yeah, bummer for Marco, certainly, and it's not the way you want to see a guy make his major league debut, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited to see Bryan Woo tomorrow.
So for those that are listening that are not too familiar with Bryan Woo, we have talked about Bryan Woo a lot on this show. We're big fans of Bryan Woo, but for those that haven't heard us talk about him, can you give us a quick little scouting report, just what to expect to see from him tomorrow?
Yeah. So first thing about Bryan Woo is he throws a lot of strikes. So that's good. Obviously, it's not an issue. Now, again, keep in mind real fast, scouting reports, awesome. Scouting reports on a guy's very first major league start, kind of throw him out the window because there's a lot of adrenaline going on. We don't know how he's going to handle that. But for the most part, it is a plus fastball. It's not quite Bryce Miller level, but it's really close. It's 94 to 96. He can touch 98 at times, has life up in the zone. It's a really repeatable delivery, tons of strikes. And he's got some pretty good off-speed stuff. So there's a shot here that Woo is poor man George Kirby, but that's probably a real stretch here. So it's a fastball. It's a pretty good changeup. It's a breaking ball, and it's a lot of strikes with a very repeatable delivery. He's a good athlete, and he understands how to pitch. So he's definitely got major league quality stuff. That's not the issue. Again, the issue is just that he doesn't have a ton of innings under his belt because of his own injury history in college, and the Mariners bringing him along slowly. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of fastballs tomorrow, I would imagine. Top of the zone, on the corners. Again, very good control and command when he's feeling good. And just overall, he will miss bats, but it's a really tough lineup. It's his major league debut, so we'll see how he manages those expectations. It's not going to be easy for him. It's a really rough landing spot, but the numbers are there. The stuff is there. The control is there. The command is there. Everything you need is there. And I think, I have a note here. It's a 15-inch vertical break and 10 inches of run. So it kind of stays at the top of the zone, kind of like Bryce Miller's. It doesn't sink quite as much. So it's a pretty good fastball with arm side run. And that is going to be his bread and butter pitch this year. If he's going to have success against this lineup, he has to have the fastball going. Because again, while the off-speed stuff is pretty good, it's like Bryce Miller's. It's still a work in progress.
Woo, a 6th round pick of the Mariners in 2021. He was coming off of Tommy John surgery when they signed him, and the initial thought there was reliever, right? Reliever profile, and maybe that is what he ends up being when it's all said and done. But he's completely shifted the narrative on him here in pretty short order as well. He has, he only started throwing for the ball club, for the organization rather, just last year. Started out in the complex league. He threw, I believe, 57 innings down there, or throughout the course of the 2022 season. And then in 2023, he's thrown 44 innings thus far, posted a 2.05 ERA down in Arkansas, 2.83 FIP, 3.74 xFIP. averaging 12.07 Ks per nine with a 2.45 walks per nine. So, Coley, tell me, what you think the upside of this move is for the Mariners, and then the downside of this as well.
The upside is that Woo is the best pitching prospect in the organization. There are some legitimate debates you could have about whether or not he should be ranked ahead of Bryce Miller. Even he was trending in that direction before Miller was called up. So yeah, the upside here too is also the upside. There's a good possibility that Woo is major league ready now, and he's in the middle of the rotation order, as opposed to somebody like Tommy Malone, who we know who Tommy Malone is, and we know who he isn't. The only other option that really made any sense right now, Hancock really struggled, and he also pitched yesterday, so that wasn't going to be an option. And Woo was ahead of him either way. And the only other real option is Chris Flexen, but Flexen isn't stretched out. The Mariners haven't used him enough to keep his arm to where it needs to be. So Flexen really wasn't an option either. So when you're looking at who they could have called up, it's pretty much Bryan Woo was it, or they were going to make the move with Tommy Malone. And why not go with the higher upside? Because you have room on the 40 man. You could just slide Robbie Ray on the 60. You could put Easton McGee on the 60. It's not a big deal. So they'll be able to make that move. It's not going to create any kind of issue with there's no 40 man mess to fix. So yeah, I think the upside is that Bryan Woo is just the best arm you have in your organization, who's not at the major league level right now. He's the one who's most prepared to go out there and throw 90, 95 pitches. And Woo's done that. This is a guy who the Mariners have been kind of careful with. They're trying to bring along a little bit, but he's gone out there. He's thrown 95 pitches in an outing before. I don't think there's going to be really any restrictions on him tomorrow. So, and that's just not something that could be said for Chris Flexen. So I think that's the upside. The downside is that, again, you're kind of putting Woo in a position where he may have to cover more innings than he's physically capable of. But you also, the Mariners, can go out and they can acquire a number 5 starter if they need to. So we'll see how long Marco's out for. But my guess is that Woo is going to be the guy for at least a couple of weeks. And then the Mariners will attempt to go find a number 5 starter, because I don't think they want to push Woo to a physical limit here. I think they want to be pretty smart with him, because he is a part of their long-term future. And, either via trade asset or being in the rotation next year, and they don't want to risk damaging that. So they're going to be a little cautious with him just in terms of how many starts he makes, but on a start-by-start basis, he should be fine to go, 95, 100 pitches, no problem. But yeah, there's probably going to be some quicker hooks than you would like. There's probably going to be a little bit of strain on the bullpen on the days he pitches. And just because he's a prospect, you don't know what you're going to get. You really don't.
Right.
Regardless of if he struggles now or if he comes up and he's Bryce Miller right away, I don't know. But the future is very bright for Bryan Woo, and they don't want to burn that just chasing a couple of extra starts here. So we'll see how long he's up. But he is the best choice, really, bar none. I don't think anybody else is even close to where Bryan Woo is right now.
So like you mentioned, hoping for the best for Marco, wishing him, a speedy recovery if this is something that is unfortunately long-term. Just, again, hoping that he's doing okay, obviously physically, but also certainly mentally. This is this could be a tough and long road for him up ahead if it is what we're thinking it might be. But fingers crossed that it isn't, and hoping for some good news to come down here in the coming days regarding Marco, and looking forward to Bryan Woo making his major league debut tomorrow night. All right, so I think that's going to do it for us, unless there's anything else you want to add before we get out of here.
No, just the minor news. Dylan Moore and Andres Munoz, apparently both on track to join the Mariners in San Diego. We'll see, as always, with guys who are rehabbing. We'll see about that. Taylor Trammell sent down yesterday on the off day. Mike Ford, who had opted out of his minor league deal with the Mariners, was added to the 40-man. Obviously, you guys saw him today. Looked fine at the plate. Looked like, a guy who has 500, 600 major league plate appearances and got one of the big hits. So, yay, I guess. But Mike Ford up. So anticipated moves, my guess would be, Haggerty goes down, but we'll probably talk about this on Monday during the off day. I imagine they'll make those moves, and hopefully that means Moore is up, and hopefully that means Munoz is up, but we'll see. We'll see. And also one other thing to keep an eye on, the date where the Mariners can theoretically DFA Chris Flexen and keep him in the organization, put him down in AAA, is apparently June 5th, which I believe is Monday. So a couple things to keep an eye on there. We'll see, if that logic comes to fruition. But yeah, also, Jerry talked a little bit yesterday about the trades and all that stuff, pretty much everything we've always heard. And finally, yeah, the Mariners probably going to have to go out and get at least a number 5 starter, which not difficult, but certainly not ideal. And we'll obviously cover that much more when we know more about, how Marco is and how long Marco is going to be out.
For sure. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. For Colby Patnode, I'm Trident Gonzales. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. That's DaneGnzlz. And Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well over at Locked On Mariners. That's one word, Locked On Mariners. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. And again, you can catch the Mariners and the Rangers on the Mariners hometown broadcast tomorrow night with the Sirius XM app. That's the XXM app. Have yourself a beautiful baseball weekend, and we'll see you next time. Peace.